Welcome back to part 10 of our After Effects tutorials. My name is Arnold Faller, and today I'm going to show you a couple of different techniques how to make certain elements in your video, in your pictures, disappear. The title was Masking, Keying and Rotoscoping. Actually, we're going to do one more. We're going to try a track matte, and all those techniques allow you to make certain parts of the video or picture invisible. So let's start with something really simple. I'm having After Effects open. I'm going to pull in I'm using any picture here, and I'm starting a new composition, 1920 by 1080, 25 frames per second. This is the one I always use. And in this piece of video, I'm just pulling in a picture. The picture is quite large, so I'm going to use a right click and transform, and I'm going to make it fit to comp width because the picture is a little bit higher. So here it is, and I have a picture in my video. And now that I would like to show you the difference between using masking and track matte. The first thing is masking is you draw a vector mask with any vector drawing tool, and it makes, depending on which operation you choose, add or subtract or intersect and so on, it makes parts visible or invisible. We used masks already in previous tutorials, so that shouldn't be anything new. So important is when you draw a vector mask that you have to select the layer that you apply the mask to, and then you use any vector tool to draw either a ready-made rectangle, circle and so on, or a general pen tool, any shape. So I'm going to use the pen tool, and I just draw any polygon shape here. I also make sure that I close the polygon, and now the mask that I have created will show up here in my layer as a new category masks, and you can see that here's my mask 1, and right now mask 1 is set to add. That means everything inside the mask is visible, everything outside the mask is invisible. The border of the mask can be both feathered, so you can make it slightly blurry with the feather tool. You can also expand it by making it larger or smaller, like inwards or outward expanding. I'm gonna take that back to 0. And you can also edit, of course, the mask by using the selection tool. Select any point of the mask and move it. In case you want to animate your mask path, and that's what we do a little bit later in an example, you have to make sure that the mask path is selected, or is selected for animation, so you click the animation button. I'm going to undo that. So the mask, if you use more than one mask, of course, I'm going to use a second one. Select the layer, draw a second mask over here, like this. And of course, the two masks will be either, also the second mask can be set to add or can be set to subtract if you want. For example, subtract doesn't do anything, but it does something when you move it together with the other mask. So let's bring it here, and then you can see you can punch a hole into it because that's a subtract mask. Or if you select your mask to intersect, that means only the areas where the two intersect will show up, and so on. So those, let's put the regular to add. And you can also turn it off by using none. You can also try the others, some based on luminance and some and so on. So that is plain mask. So what is the important part of mask? So I'm closing everything. Masks, and you can also turn off the visibility of the mask by you hitting this button here. Now the mask is not visible, but the mask always sticks to the layer. So it means if you do something to the layer itself, for example, move the layer. So I'm selecting the layer here, P for position. So if I move the layer, you can see the mask moves with the layer. Or if I rotate the layer, you can see the mask rotates with the layer. So with that technique, the mask will always be a part of the layer. Of course, you can animate it, but still, if you do something to the layer, it will follow. That's quite good if you want to mask out certain things, even if it's just a rough mask, quickly drawn around it. The next thing is now it's called a garbage mask. So if you just want to draw a mask, or a quick mask around something to get rid of all this stuff around, it's called a garbage mask. So it moves with the layer. Now the next concept that I'm going to show you is something that's not moving with the layer, and therefore I'm going to create, I'll kick the layer out. I'm using the same composition here, and this time again I am bringing in the picture, take the picture and make it fit, transform, make it fit to comp width, and now I am drawing something on top of it without selecting the layer. And we know when we use any graphic, any shape tool without selecting a layer, it's going to be a shape layer. It's going to create its own layer. So I'm going to do the same thing here, approximately that I did before. Here it is. Now it's a shape layer. And the way I use it now, it doesn't matter if the shape layer is yellow, red, or filled or non-filled, or having a stroke or a gradient in it. That doesn't matter, because if you use the tool in the following way, it just works like a mask, with only one big difference that I'm going to explain later. So what I'm going to do is I want to use the picture, and I'm going to make the I'm going to use for the picture the shape layer as a track matte. So if you don't have this button here, track matte, where it says none, not for the shape, but for the picture layer, they always work in pairs, two of them, and the top one is the one that defines the shape, and the bottom one, you have to tell him which layer you're using. So if you don't have it, you can just try those three buttons down here. The first one without anything, then you got the symbols, and the last one gives you additional, the second one it is. So with the second one, you can have the track matte. And inside the picture, define the alpha matte for shape layer number 1. It always picks the one on top. So alpha matte shape layer number 1. And now you can see it works exactly the same way. It's shape layer number 1. You can also invert it, then it's punching a hole, or the track matte here. So with the big difference, no, if you by doing this, you saw that the shape itself got turned invisible. So it automatically turns the shape layer invisible and sets the track matte alpha to the shape layer on top. Of course, if you want to turn it off, here it is, no track matte. So the big difference is now the track matte, sorry, I just added a shape here. The track matte is not fixed to the layer because it is an extra layer. So you can do two things. You can select the shape itself, for example, and move it. And you can see the hole that I move around, of course, will be moved, will show different parts of the layer below. And on the other hand, you can also select the picture below and move the picture. And that means, of course, the hole stays at the same position, but the picture and the background moves. So that is something where the mask, actually, it's not called a mask, it's called a track matte, and the layer are moved independently. You can use that, of course, with any shape. You can also use it with other black and white pictures, but you can also use it with text, for example, a text layer. And here is a text layer, and I'm going to type Easter eggs and make it larger. And of course, you need some kind of text font style that has a certain thickness. Don't use like a handwritten small one. And again, you have to select the bottom layer and choose the alpha matte here. And the reason why it's not showing is because the turning invisible is only done when you do it the first time. The second time it's not showing up. So here it is. When I turn the red layer invisible, the text layer, it punches a hole through and it shows no, it's not a hole, actually, it makes everything else invisible. Okay, Does that work? The difference between the masking and the track matte. Again, I can use the bottom layer and move it around, or use the shape layer, in this case it's a text layer, and move it as well. Good. That's it for right now. Let's do something else, and that is the next technique. I'm going to delete my composition. The next scene I would like to show you keying, and keying in this case means to define a certain color or color range, and this color range is made invisible. So you do not choose the area by selecting a part or by using a drag matte somehow shape, but you define a certain color or a range, a gradient of colors, and so on. And I would like to start with something really simple. Just to show you, I'm going to start with a new composition here, the same one, 1920, that's an HD composition. And, you know, I went to YouTube and I just Googled, I YouTubed search term, I used keying, green screen footage, free green screen footage or something like this. So what I found is, I found this footage, and I downloaded it of green screen footage of a man and a woman standing in front of something and pointing and pretending to work. So this footage I'm going to put on top of my background, and it's a smaller file size, a smaller video size, so it's slightly smaller. Doesn't matter. I just put it to the bottom so that the feet disappear in the ground, and to put something behind them, I just took a random picture, and here's a picture that again pretty large. Let's fit that to transform, fit to comp with. Here's a piece of, you know, the wall on the on Vienna International Airport that that shows which planes have landed. So let's bring that on top, and so they have something to point at, and they're standing there. Now, that is a really simple, and it's a perfectly lit green screen, so that is quite tricky to get a good footage. The green has to be perfectly lit. There shouldn't be too much spilling of color of the green on top of the people, so they shouldn't stand too close to the green screen, and so on and so on. There's plenty of tutorials on YouTube how to create good green screen videos. That is kind of perfect. I want to show you different methods of how to make the green stuff disappear. And I'm going to start with the old one, the simple one, because they explained quite well. I'm going to start with over here at the effects and presets. And I'm going to start, oh, it's still there. I'm going to start typing keying, and then you get all kinds of keying methods. Especially here, there's an extra category keying. We're going to do that later. I'm going to start with the really old one, and that's why it's in a folder called obsolete, color key. It's not because it's not the best, but it's the simplest to explain. So let's try with color key first. So you take the effect color key and put it on your green screen footage. And here it's the color key effect is really simple because it only has 4 parameters. First, you define a color. Here in this case, key color, it's made for blue screen, so you just need the eyedrop tool and click onto the green stuff. Then you'll see most of the green already disappears, but there is a lot of green edges around the people, and also there is something that has to do with the lighting of the green screen, so there's a different green down here. That's because the color tolerance is 0, so it only selects the one green color that I have picked and makes it invisible, and all the edges and the feathering that happen close to the faces is not selected. So all you need to do now is play a little bit with color tolerance. So of course the higher you go, the more greens will be selected, but there's a danger at a certain point that it starts to eat inside the faces. So when you go larger, then it eats away all the green, and then it starts to eat away parts of the hair and so on. So you have to find a compromise so that there's a small, maybe a small green line there and so on. So there's also other ways, more parameters. You can define the edges. You can like go 1, 2, 3 pixels larger or smaller. That's like an offset of your edge. And the last one is you can feather it, so you make the pixels slightly transparent. And the more you feather it, of course, then the more it blends, or a little bit blends together with the background. So you have to find a compromise of all those values. For right now, don't bother. We're going to find better methods to get rid of the green screen. But let's see how it looks like. So those two people, they just talk to each other, and especially when they both have the hands up there pointing at something, you can see that there remains a lot of green. We're going to use a different. No, before we do this, let's try a different method first. Let's see how it works better. So instead of using a color key, you can either turn the effect off, or in this case, I'm going to delete the effect. So select color key and hit delete. I'm going to use let's try one that is not in obsolete. Let's try the linear color key, because that is kind of the newer version of the color key, the linear color key. And in this case, what you can do is, here has probably the same, or it just sounds different. You define your key color with the eyedrop tool, and just by defining, I picked the key color, it already got rid of the colors down here. There is a matching tolerance, and when I zoom in and play with the matching tolerance, you can see I can almost get rid of all the green edges. I don't want to go too far, because the hair will look weird, and also the back, it starts to eat away. So let's go for something like a matching tolerance of around 20%. Can soften the thing, but I'm not a big fan of softening too much. That's good. Okay, so it works quite well. I didn't have to define more. I could also define more different colors. But in this case, I want to show you one more effect that I placed on top of the linear color key, and that is to get rid of the green edges, because there's an extra effect just to get rid of the edges, and that is called, and we have to find it. It's called spill suppressor. The old one, and of course there is an advanced spill compressor. Basically what it does, you pick the color again and it removes the color. Let's try the keying advanced spill suppressor. You can drag it on top of the video, or you can drag it in here. And as soon as you place it, the advanced spill suppressor finds the color and suppresses it. So here is before and after. You can see that the green edges are found and then turned, and so on. So you can define how many percent, so if you want a little bit. The good thing with the spill suppressor is it's not only taking care of the edges, but also if there is some green color spilling on usually the shoulders or somewhere. So when the light that hits the green screen comes back onto the person here, especially, for example, when you have white pants. I don't know if you can see it, but that mostly takes care of the edges. So it's good to work with both together. So how much can the spill suppressor do, or do you have to get a little bit more of the matching tolerance in the linear color key? And with that, you can simply create a quite nice and convincing keying for the green screen. Okay, so you still need those two effects. The last one I would like to show is, let's select the linear color key, remove it, the spill suppressor, remove it. Let's try one more of the keying, and I'm going back to type in keying at the effect. And what I would like to use is the most advanced one, I guess, and that is the key light. A key light, and you put it on the video. Basically, what you need to do is you need to pick your color, same thing, screen color. You don't need a spill suppressor. If you zoom in, basically does everything automatically. You don't need the spill suppressor because it already comes with, I think here it says edge color correction. It's not even on. So if it's too strong still, you can use the edge color correction, and that's basically working perfect here. So in this case, if I would like to kind of finish the video, what you could do is, for example, you could take the video and duplicate it. Control D. I'm duplicating the video. Then I'm taking the duplicated video, the one in the back, so that the top one stays the same. The one in the back, I'm going to move it and bring it a little bit there. And I'm going to make the transparency, the opacity, really low. Really, really low, like 5% or so. Why? Because you see when they move, you can get something like a slight reflection on because they're standing in front of something like a glass wall. I know it's not perfect, but here's the face and there is a slight reflection in it, so that is something that you could use there. Another example of a green screen footage, and let's get rid of those two. Again, I can keep the airport picture, and I removed the two people standing there. Also one that I found on the same website, so where you can find green screen footage. That is so let me get that here. It's a person with a head-up display on top of it. So I'm gonna put the person head-up display there. I'm gonna use the key light on it. Make it transparent, for example, and in this case, she is just moving, like moving in a virtual directory and pushing things apart. So what you could do is you could just use the background, the airport JPEG, the airport picture here. I could place what's it called, a level, for example, levels on it, levels. And try to, let me turn off the back quickly. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to get the text only, something like this. So just the text by itself, put it on top, change the blend mode, blending mode, to something that overlaps, so you can try, I guess, multiply would work. No, multiply is darkening everything. So I guess, down here you can, if you just click on it, I think you can, no, it doesn't work. Overlay, I should have turned on the background, so there it is. Overlay does not work. Screen, yes, screen would work. So now it's a screen on top, and what you could do is you could take the top frame, mask it out a bit, so use a rectangular mask there with soft edges, like feather it a bit. And you can have it, scale it up, scale, and you could have the background blurred, for example, and have the text, track her fingers because she's pointing and scrolling down and so on, and you could link it to the text and you have the text floating around. That was just an idea that I came up with. So, things like this. Next, there's one more thing in keying that I would like to show you, and that is, let's kick out everything and get in a video that, I know there's none, I don't have any perfect footage for that, but you've seen it before. That is the train video, basically a still standing camera background's not changing, and then there's a train coming in. I would like to show you the difference matte, and this is basically a way to key not for a specific color, but to take two videos and compare them and tell them whatever is the same in both videos, please make it invisible. So what is the same between this picture? What is difference between this picture and this picture? All the background, foreground stays the same, but there is a locomotive and the other one doesn't have a locomotive. So if I compare this picture to this picture, I will only get the left with the locomotive, and it's called difference matte. Difference, sorry, that's 3F, difference matte, and I'm going to put it on top of the video. So, right now the difference matte cannot do anything because you need to compare it. And what you need is you need the video of the train twice in your timeline. Once with the effect and once without the effect. And the one without the effect on the bottom, I'm going to turn it off. So, and now I tell the effect on top. So here's the effect that I added, the difference matte. The difference layer is the one on the bottom. So the top one is the one with the locomotive, and the bottom one is the one that is what comparing. Whatever is the same with this layer will be invisible, and whatever is different will be visible. So right now they are both at the same timing, so all is invisible because they are both totally the same. But if I move my bottom, if I move a little bit forward to the point where the locomotive is here, let's after a couple seconds, and now I shift my bottom layer to the beginning. So let's find the position where the locomotive comes in. That's here. And this is where the other layer starts. So if you compare the two now, there's only a few pixels that are different due to camera settings and compression and so on. But now you can see as soon as there is an element that is really different in the video, the train comes in. But the effect, of course, also has some matching tolerance, so you can play with the tolerance to get rid of the details in the foreground. You can blur it before checking the difference and so on. With that, you can, by having a clean plate, and the clean plate is the one on the bottom, so that is my clean plate without having the train on it, and the train on top with the effect difference matte reference to the second layer allows you, let's take the second one off, to get the train alone. And of course, you can now put whatever layer you want in the background. Let's get, here is my airport picture again, just to show you. Here could be the, let's go transform, fit to comp width, and here it is. And now that is, of course, it doesn't work as soon as the second locomotive is coming in because I cut it off too early. So you need more clean plate, or you make sure you just take a picture. You can also use a picture of a clean plate or the background with the sky and so on. This one to compare it to. Okay, so not always perfect, but it's a really quick method to get something, the difference matte. And now let's look at the time. It's almost half an hour. So I think we can do one more example, and that is a combination of a couple of methods. So I'm going to kick everything out, and here is a piece of footage. It's a couple years old already. I'm going to show you, and it is a blue screen picture. Let's take this one. It's a blue screen picture without having a blue screen, so you can see I placed the camera so that that behind the people there is a sky, and we're using the sky for the blue screen. It looks like the person is pulling something, and so this is what we do, this part. And what are different methods? The first thing, and again we put something in the background later on. Let's put let's just to show the difference. I'm going to put a solid in the background, so layer, new, solid. I'm going to pick a color that is not neither blue nor white, so I'm going to use a green solid. Comp size, of course, It's a HD ready composition 1440. The green one, and now another new solid, and I'm gonna make it green and red. Okay, so I have those two solids. Of course, I put them all in the background, and now as soon as I make something transparent, we will see through to those things. So first, let's use a simple mask to get rid of that was the roof of a garage. So let's get rid of the roof first. We could of course also move the whole layer down. I think in this case that would be even the better way, the better method, just to move the video slightly down, and there it is. We got rid of this part. The next thing is, let's get rid of the blue. Sky. And the blue sky, again, we have all kinds of keying methods. So let's go in here, type keying. Let's try the key light there. It's funny, it's the first time that it's actually not. Okay, it works well actually. It has a few mistakes there, so maybe if we make it slightly larger, that will work. Okay, and the last thing that was, we could of course play with different keys and which one works best for this method. And the last thing that I would like to show you now, we have made everything. We have an artificial green screen, so there's also another person walking in the front. And now we also want to make a second mask, manually animated, that kind of, so it looks like as if he's pulling a curtain, and of course the curtain will make the green layer disappear and then get the red layer back. So I'm gonna go to the green layer and give the green layer a mask, and then I'm gonna animate the mask. So make sure you don't use, I'm doing it really quickly, so here is the mask that I'm placing, and it should look like as if it's getting pulled, like this. And now I'm going to animate it, the shape of the mask. So here's the mask 1, and I'm gonna hit animate for the shape, and now I'm going a couple frames backwards and adjust the points, the vertices of the mask. So either I'm doing it really roughly, so here is the, and we have to of course invert the mask later on like this. Good, so let's go even further here, and as I said, I'm going to do it really quickly. I'm going to pause the video and show you how it looks like when it's finished. Okay, so there it is. It's not perfect, as I mentioned. I just did it really fast, and here is the red underneath, and now you can see it looks like as if he pulls back. So now I can change the green picture to something else, like a background, and then you reveal a second background or a different location. In this case, it was for the red solid. Of course, you can play a little bit. You can make the line look like a curtain, so it really, looks like a piece of fabric, and the hands also are not always precise, but it looks kind of, see, I was not too precise there, but it looks kind of okay. Okay, so here's the example of green screen together with masks and animated masks for that matter. Good, so much for the keying. Let's have another look at the last part 3 in the title, and that is rotoscoping. So whenever you want to make parts disappear and the mask is maybe not precise enough, the background is not monochrome, so the keying works with any color, but it should be a monochrome color, and any green or blue or whatever color fits the person in front. And if that all doesn't work, then you can always do it by hand, and that task is called rotoscoping. Especially, it's especially important when the green screen, for example, is not precise enough and so on. You can always mask something by hand. And the video that I would like to use for that, let's get rid of everything, is a short piece recorded there, and I'm going to pull it into a new composition. And the part that I would like to focus on, so it's just a person standing, really bad quality by the way, and sitting down. So it's just this part, and the part that I would like to focus on is this one, because that is a really difficult part, and we want to put something behind the person. So we could always mask this. You can mask the table if you want to put something in foreground, background, but the hair is really tricky for masking, and also the background is like all kinds of whites. Keying will also not work quite well. That's why we'll use rotoscoping. So we're going to focus for the couple of frames where she turns her head and the hair is flowing, is waving like. So I'm going to start at this point. I'm going to zoom in, and what we're going to use is we're going to use two tools, and those are the Roto Brush tool and the Refine Edge tool. The Refine Edge tool, especially for the hair, and the Roto Brush for the whole body. So we start with doing the Roto Brush first. So we're going to quickly Roto Brush out her body. We don't spend too much details because it's up there where we want to focus later on. So the Roto Brush, and the tool is on, it's not working in the composition itself. You have to do it in the layer. So in order to use the Roto Brush tool, I think when you click, it will give you a warning. See, the paint tool, the Roto Brush tool, and so on, they only work in the layer, just like the pin, the puppet pin tool that we used in the previous tutorial. So double click your layer and it will open the layer, and now you can use the Roto Brush first. So we're starting right at this frame, and I'm going to zoom in. You see there's a plus, and it's a brush actually. So the brush can be made larger or smaller with the control key. So press down your control key and pull it larger or smaller. For the body, you start with a large brush, and then for the details here, fingers and so on, you maybe use a smaller one. Now, while we are in plus, you just paint on the face. And see, when you paint the shirt, it finds all the shirt and adds this little pink line. Now I'm adding the trousers. Now I'm zooming in, and zoom in, of course, with the mouse wheel and with the middle mouse button. Now I make my brush smaller, and I also add those details here. Just one click, and it finds the edges approximately. Also the arm here, one brush. Yeah, that's good here, and so on. Good. So now what you see here is that at the frame that we are right now, it kind of finds the outline of the person. I didn't do the details here, but now use the page up and page down on your keyboard to go one frame ahead. That's page down. So page down is one frame ahead, and you can see it automatically, the edge, the outline will automatically follow the outline. Only a couple frames, you can see it only like 10 frames or 20 frames or so. Go there frame by frame, and as soon as the outline doesn't look good anymore, so here, it's still good, still okay. There is something weird, but let's keep that. I just want to pay attention to the hair one more time. Okay, okay. We also do the face later on. It looks good. So still we have the outline, the rough outline there. The hair has outline. It's good. Now that is a mistake here. So when you accidentally add something, for example, here the outlet, and that you want to remove, you can use your Alt key. So Alt and paint it away. That's not what I wanted. Just the body. That's good. Also, that's Alt and remove. Oh, I removed the. Let's hit undo. I just wanted to add this, not remove. So good. So it's added, and I'm using the picture up and down, the picture down tool, again, forward. So now we get a large thing here. So Alt, click, and that is removed. Page down, page down, page down, page down. So I'm just going a couple of frames forward so that we get at least 1 or 2 seconds, 1 second. Oh, okay, hand here in the background. Now the part where the hair is really, so there's a part there. Now the part where the hair is the problem, or could be the problem, is already finished. So now we have a couple of frames here, and if I move my timeline, so we have about less than 1 second that we rotoscoped out. I'm going back to the beginning, and now I'm finding the point where the hair is getting really tricky with a little hair there and also some detail in the face and so on. Because now I'm switching from the Roto Brush tool, which is just roughly the outline, to the longer, told a little bit longer, Refine Edge tool. And the Refine Edge tool also gives you a brush that you can define the size. And now with the Refine Edge tool, you paint over the edges that should be refined. So I'm going to starting here at the neck, the shoulder, and paint over the face, define the edge that should be refined. Also around the hair, maybe a part of the shoulder, and here. Okay, so that is the part that I especially want to go. And now you see, you go into a weird X-ray mode. This X-ray mode now shows you what kind of areas that will be selected. Black is made transparent later on. White is opaque. So you can also use the minus brush to, if you said, okay, I don't want to have any transparency here, so you can also paint away something like this, but the edge is nicely refined. So, and now you do the same thing. Use your picture up and down key to go 1 frame forward, and you can see that the neon, that the X-ray follows. And as soon as some hair leaves it, you can just add this piece of hair there, and 1 more time there. Oh, there is some hair coming out also here. So you just make sure that the refine edge part is large enough. Ooh. Okay, the head is still good. So now there is a bit of, yeah, it doesn't matter, there's a bit of transparency in there, so it doesn't recognize that as no hair, but there's a strain of hair. And 1 second, oh, 1 more here, and one frame. Oh, that's a long one I missed there. Okay, good. So, and the most critical part is gone. So I can use the Alt key and remove all that. Also here, so it's not searching to remove it anymore. And I go ahead 1 frame, 1 frame, 1 frame. So we almost are at the point where we stopped with the body, then it makes no sense to keep on with the detailed tracking of the hair. See, it takes much longer than before the Roto tool did. Good. So let's keep it there, 1 second almost. And if I go back to my composition, I can see now that this second here, almost perfect, not really perfect. You can see the hair flowing. Let's make it a little bit better visible. I'm going to take the same video and put it underneath again. So the same video here, and put it one more time underneath. Now we don't see any effect, but now between those two layers, I'm gonna put something, for example, and I've seen it, a lot of tutorials do it this way. They just put a rotoscoping. No? Let's do it. Yeah, larger. And larger. And we're gonna place it in the background. And let's put the enter. Good. So there it is. I changed the text a bit. Good. And now you can see that it really works well. So I could make the text a 3D layer. If I make the text a 3D layer, also if I add a new camera, probably this is shot with something like a 24mm, so like this, and then take the roto text and rotate it, what is it? Probably the y-axis a little bit, and also the z-axis a bit. So now it's placed behind her, and now you can see how the hair and so on, how it works really well. See, it looks like as if it's in the background. See, all the details shining through the hair. So that is a tool that works really well for doing it by hand. Of course, it takes a couple minutes for every second of video. You have to go frame by frame. That's where the page up and page down keyboard shortcut works well. Okay, so if you are interested in any of the tools that I was showing about masking, keying, or rotoscoping, also about how to create track mattes, check out on YouTube. There's plenty of other tutorials. They go much further into details, but still, I hope you liked it. It was a kind of nice overview. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.